Hello everyone. This tutorial is a continuation of the topic Java user-defined methods. This is part 2 of this topic, Java user-defined methods. Basically, again, Java methods are a block of codes which, when called, it will execute all those statements inside that method. Methods are functions in other programming languages. So in Java, they are called Java methods. And so before I continue the discussion, please support the channel by clicking on the subscribe button and hit also the notification bell so that you will be notified with all the new videos that I'm going to upload in this channel. And so like I said a while ago, this is a continuation of the part 1. So this is part 2 of this topic, Java user-defined methods. In part 1, you can just watch that, or you can watch that in our YouTube channel. You can just find it right over here. Okay, this is our YouTube channel. It consists of XML topics, Python programming, and Java programming topics. I also have Java server phases here. I think it is on the next page. So like I said a while ago, this is part 2. And so in part 1, I was able to discuss there what is a Java method. Okay, what are Java methods? How to define those methods? How do we call methods? Okay, I also discussed there how to create a method without parameters and does not return a value. And I was able to discuss there also methods with parameters but still do not return value. I also discussed there arguments. So I think it will be better if you will watch that video first, part 1, so that you will have an understanding of the continuation of this topic. Okay, so because here I will discuss now Java methods without parameters, but this time it can return a value. Okay, so I'm going to discuss this topic now. So methods that return value. In the previous part, or part 1, methods that doesn't return value. Those are the things that I discussed there. All right, so hopefully you will watch that, and so that you will have a better understanding of methods, Java methods. Like I said, here in Java, they are called methods. So in other programming language, they are called functions, but they do have the same functionality, okay, so, or concept. So it's just the name that is different. Now let's talk about Java methods. All right, that has the ability to return a value. All right, it's like that. Now there are two types here, without parameters and with parameters. So let's talk about first Java method without parameters, but it can return a value. Okay, now before that, I would like to clarify that here we are just using the Java main class. So we're defining here methods in the Java main class. Now, there are methods also that are defined, or that you can define in a Java class. All right, whenever you want to create an object, so the class, or the methods, I mean, the methods that you will create should be defined in the class, so that you can create whenever you want to create an object. All right, so there are two types of methods here right now, if that is what we were trying to say, you know. Here, I'm just using the Java main class to discuss to you how it works, because it's the same. The only difference here is we define the methods here in the Java main class, and the other one is a Java class wherein we use that class to put methods, or we put the methods there in the Java class. All right, so I think that will be our, or my next video about how to create a class and how to create an object. Okay, so I hope that is very clear. So now let's define a method without parameter, but it can return a value. So like I said in the previous video, the purpose of the method is to put together some statements, all right, that when you need those statements, you just call the name of the method. So it's like dividing your whole program into smaller parts. So something like that. All right, so that is the purpose of the method. So every time you need that part, you just have to call the name of that method. All right, so let's create this method now without parameters, but it can return a value. All right, so meaning to say, when I call the function, when it returns to the Java main class here, all right, this is the controlling program or controlling method. So it is bringing something. All right, so let's do this one first. Method without parameters and can return a value. So let's say, for instance, okay, again here in the Java main class, it is starting with static. So because you don't need an object here, so it's like this. So static, let's say, because it is going to return a value, you have to specify now the return type. If it is not returning a value, so you just have to say void. So since it is returning a value, so you just have to determine what is that return value. If you think the return value is int, then you can say int. All right, and then the name of the value. Let's say, I mean the name of the method. Let's say I'm going to say compute grades. All right, so it's like that. There you go. Okay, so it is going to return an integer data type. If you think it is going to return this data type, then just put int. All right, and so let's say, for instance, let's say int, let's say coursework is equal to 10, then let's say midterm exam is equal to let's say 15, and then final exam is equal to, let's say, 30. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's say int total is equal to CW plus ME plus FE. There you go. Okay, so the key here is, if you would like to return the value or a value or any value you would like to return, you just have to say return and then the value you would like to return. So in this case, I would like to return, for instance, total. There you go. All right, so you have to make sure that total is int because you're returning an int value. All right, so basically you're creating a method that can return an integer value. So you make sure whatever you're returning, it is an int data type, as you can see here. So int total is int, and we are returning an int. All right, and so it's like that. So again, this is an example of a method. It doesn't have a parameter. Okay, the parameters are here inside the open and close parentheses here, no? So we don't have parameters, but it can return a value. So now, how do we test it? Again, just like the part 1, which I discussed in part 1, no? So you can declare it here. I mean, you can call it here. Okay, so let's say compute grades, like that. There you go. All right. Okay, so since it is returning a data, no? So when we call it here, this is the controlling program. You can only call it here. This is the main program. So you can only call it here. Okay, so when we call it here, what will happen is it will jump to 4 here. So, sorry, here in now line number 5. Okay, not 4, 5. So it will jump here and it will execute each statement now. So it will execute this 7, 8, 9, 10. So when it reaches 10, return total, it will return back now here in the calling program in line 14. It is bringing the value of total. So where is total now? All right, so it is somewhere here, no? I mean, it is returned here by the function. So we have to catch that, or we have to get that by simply saying, for instance, you would like to directly print it. It's also possible. So you will say like this. So the return value will be printed immediately. Okay, so let's try to run it. So I press F6 and there you go. So the total is 55. All right. Or you may also say something like this. You may introduce a value. Let's call it G total is equal to compute grades. It means we're calling this method, and when it returns, the return value of this method will be stored here. Okay, so once again, when we call this method, this is a call to the method. So when you call this method, it will execute 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And 10 is a return. It is going to return this total. So meaning to say it will come back now here in line 15. So the return value, which is total, will now go to this variable G total. And so therefore, I can now print the G total. So I can just say system.out.println G total. All right. There you go. So if I print now, I will still be having the same value, 55. All right. So it's going to be like that. Okay. And so this is a nice thing because since this value now, this variable now has a value, you can use it in computation. So if you have a computation or if you have arithmetic operation that involves this, you can include this in that arithmetic operation or expression. You can also use this in conditional statements. Maybe you would like to test. Let's say, for instance, let's say you will say if G total, all right, is greater than, let's say, 67, you will say, or equal 67, you will say system.out.println, let's say, pass. All right. Otherwise, you will say, I'm just going to copy this, failed. It's like this, no? So the return value is 55, so it should be failed once we run, no? So I'm going to run again, F6, and there you go. So you can do anything now with the return value. All right, you can use it in loop statement, mathematical expression, somewhere here. All right after calling it. So something like that. Again, you can do whatever you want here. Let's say in line 15, you can proceed with other codes that you think it is needed. All right, and then when you need the method, you can just call the method just like this. All right, and then it will go there again in line 6 or 5 and then 6 and so on. Okay, again, also inside your method, you can place here also anything here. You can place here if statement. You can also place here loop statements such as for, right, or while, or do while, so something like that. Okay, so you are not limited to what you can do inside your method. Okay, so but what is important is that it should have a return value. Okay, because you're creating a method that will return a value. All right, so it's like that. So definitely there should be a return. You will definitely use the return. All right, it should return a value because you're creating a function or a method that will return a value based on this. All right, so I hope that is very clear to you. Okay, so this time let's create another method, another type of method. Same, it can return a value, but this time it has parameters. Okay, again, I discussed this in the part 1. Okay, method that has parameter but doesn't return a value. So this time it can return a value. Okay, so let's have like that. So for instance, here I'm going to create another function or method. So this time let's make it double. Let's say expenses. Let's call it expenses. All right, so there you go. Because there will be parameters. Okay, so I'm just going to put those parameters here, right? So we will define the parameters here. Separate the parameters if you have more than one parameter or more than one parameters. That means you have to separate them by comma. but you have to define them here. Let's say, for instance, let's say double. Let's say I'm going to say water, about water. Okay, so about double about electricity, and let's say double internet. Sorry, double internet. Yeah, double internet. All right, so this is our expenses for internet, our bill for electricity, our bill for water. All right, so it's like this. So I'm just going to compute expenses. So let's say again, compute expenses. So it's like this. I'm just making it simple so that you will understand the concept. All right, so here it has 3 parameters. All right, that means when I call this method, it should have 3 data. All right, one for this, and this. Okay, so when I call it, I should supply data for this, and for this. It should be like this, in this order. All right, because they are defined as like this. Of course, you can interchange them, but when you call the method, you make sure that you follow your order here, the order of listing here. All right, so for instance, simply we will just compute. Let's say double expenses total is equal to, let's say, water plus electricity plus internet. There you go. And then I'm just going to return E total. There you go. All right, so you can also make it directly, no? So because nothing else, it's only simple adding and then just returning the total. You can just say return this. You can also say like this. So no need for this two. So only this thing here. Return water plus electricity plus internet. It's the same if you will have these two. It will be the same. All right, so you were able to save one line, all right, of statement. So something like that. So it's possible. So now this one, I'm just going to clear this so that we will have a simple example. So all right, so I'm going to call it now. So to call it, again, compute expenses. All right, and then open parenthesis, open and close parenthesis, semicolon here. Again, you have to supply this time arguments. So the arguments are the data that you will supply, all right, that you will provide when you call the expenses. All right, and then when it reach here, when it goes here in line 13, parameters will take care of those arguments. Okay, so for instance, here I'm going to say here 100, electricity, let's say 150, and then internet, let's say 50. All right, so this means again, water will be 100, electricity will be 150, and internet will be 50. All right, so that is what will happen. So again, when you call the compute expenses, so it will go here in 13. It is bringing 3 data. So who will take care of this data now? So according to this order, all right, so again, water will take 100, electricity will take 150, and internet will take 50. So that's the order. All right, so again, you can interchange this, but you make sure that you place the proper value. You have to follow the order here. As simple as that. All right, and so again, you can place anything inside, no, here inside your method. Okay, before returning, you can put anything just like what we have here. All right, so you can place here if statement, a loop statement. What is important at the end, or what is important, there should be a return value. It may be in the middle part, or it may be in the last part, depending on the problem that you would like to solve, or requirements that you would like to solve. All right, so you can place anything here. And so again, because it's going to return a value, so just like a while ago, you can directly print it if you want to. System.out.println if you need to print it, for instance. So for example, here I'm going to say, well, you can print directly. there you go, it's 300. Or if you would like to provide a label, so something like this, there you go. So I'm going to run, and so therefore it's going to be like this. So it will print this one first and then the, all right. Or if you would like to, you can just place it first in a variable. Let's say expenses total is equal to, right? So I'm just going to call this, there you go. All right, and then you can just print it, and then you will just say here e-total. So this one and this one will be the same. The only difference is that the return value, you put it, or you will place it, or you will assign it in e-total variable, and then that is the one that you will print. So let's see, there you go, it's the same output. All right, so again, since you have this variable now has a value, then you can just do anything here in line 26 or in line 25. You can do whatever you want now in the e-total. You can place this one, or you can use this one in a loop statement, or you can use it for the loop statement, for conditional statement, or for whatever it may require you to use. All right, or whatever is the use for this based on your requirements. All right, so this is how Java methods are working. This time I discussed to you methods without a parameter, but it can return a value, and also a method that has parameters and can return a value. All right, so it is now complete. So because in the part 1, methods without parameters but doesn't return a value, those are void methods, and methods with parameters but doesn't return a value again. All right, so here it's the same, just this time it returns a value, these methods here. All right, so I hope you were able to learn something new here using Java methods. So next time, still we will be using methods when I discuss to you the objects and the classes. So still we will be using methods, but this time it will be Java class methods. The same concept, just this time the difference will be those are going to be used for objects. It's like that. All right, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on my next one.